Minutes before the wedding, she discovered his secret, and her amazing revenge changed everything. Emma stood beneath the breathtaking floral archway, the sun streaming through the stained glass windows of the church, casting vibrant colors over her white wedding dress. With every breath, she felt a whirlwind of emotions, a tide of joy mixed with an undercurrent of doubt. The heartfelt anticipation written all over the faces of family and friends gathered in the pews felt surreal, almost dizzying. She should have been reveling in the moment, but a weight pressed on her heart like a heavy stone, and then it happened. An unexpected vibration from her phone jolted her back to reality, sending her pulse racing. Glancing at the screen, her breath hitched. The name Dad glared at her in bold letters, a source of estrangement for years. She couldn't help but wonder what prompted him to reach out now, mere minutes before she was to say "I do." She slid her finger across the screen, the message unfolding with a dreadful finality. "David has been hiding something, Emma. It's about his family and it implicates yours. You deserve to know." Her mind spiraled, fragments of familiar lessons her mother had taught weaving through her thoughts. Integrity, honesty, the gravity of secrets. What could it possibly mean? The beautiful life she had envisioned with David now felt like a facade, and she was at a crossroads. Could she really let this revelation rip through them both minutes before they committed to a life together? A sickening knot formed in her stomach. Scenarios replayed in her head like a chaotic reel. David's bright smile seemed to dim as she envisioned him unraveling, the truth tearing through their love like a jagged knife. She remembered the countless hours spent teaching her students about honesty, the foundation of trust and loyalty she had always believed in. How could she betray that belief by standing idly, as a storm brewed just outside their vision? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. David adjusted his tie, blissfully unaware of the internal chaos storming through Emma. He looked every bit the charming groom, radiating warmth and love, yet the weight of a family secret tugged at her heart. Could she really upend this moment? But standing in the sacred space of their church, her mother's spirit surged through her, urging her to act for the sake of truth, even if it risked everything. Emma's mouth went dry as she stepped forward. The air felt electric, time slipping away as every pair of eyes turned towards her. The tension wrapped around her like a noose, choking her resolve. Her heart raced with urgency, a desperate pulse driving her toward the truth. "David, we need to talk," she managed, her voice quivering yet full of determination. The words hung thick in the air, a prelude to catastrophe, as the shimmering decorations around her faded into insignificance. In a moment that felt like forever, she saw his expression shift from joyous anticipation to confusion, a fissure opening in their shared reality, an emotional grenade ready to explode. Emma stood on the precipice of revelation, knowing this single moment would change everything as she took a deep breath, ready to confront the foundation of their love. The question remained: would the future they dreamed of survive the weight of unrealized truths? In that fragile space between doubt and courage, Emma knew with certainty her life would never be the same again. Emma's heart pounded in her chest, the loudest sound in a silence that enveloped the chapel like a shroud. Each second felt like an eternity as she wrestled with her decision, understanding the magnitude of the words she had just spoken. She had spent years building a life, a belief system grounded in honesty and connection. Standing there, she felt a crack split open in the foundation of everything she knew and desired. David's brow furrowed, confusion etched on his handsome face. "What do you mean?" he asked, glancing nervously at the guests, who shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing the tension. Emma could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, and it clawed at her. She had loved him deeply, yet here they were, teetering on the edge of a precipice. Emma took another breath, steeling herself with thoughts of the lessons she had imparted to her students over the years: courage, integrity, the importance of facing the truth head-on. I received a message from my dad. He said you've been hiding something about your family. His expression shifted. The warmth melted away, replaced by caution, as if he were a deer caught in headlights. Emma, he began, but she raised a hand, stopping him. I need to know the truth, David, right now. The firmness in her voice surprised even her. She had not anticipated such strength. It was almost liberating, this unexpected empowerment coursing through her. David's face paled as the reality of her words sunk in. I didn't want to ruin today. I thought I could take care of this later, after we... Emma couldn't let him finish. Take care of what, exactly? Whatever it is, keeping it a secret is worse than anything you could tell me. In that moment, the purity and clarity of her emotions cut through her confusion. Emma's professional instincts kicked in, her educator's heart demanding transparency, not only for her but for all those she cared for. This situation was an opportunity for profound change, not just for herself, but possibly for David too. Perhaps in confronting this truth, she could help him find the strength he didn't know he had. Emma, David said again, his voice softer now, almost pleading. I was trying to protect us, protect you. Protect me? She scoffed, feeling a rush of indignation. By building our life on lies? She could see the subtle, agonizing conflict play out on his face. He was trapped between wanting to protect her and knowing that the truth she sought would shatter everything. Yet, as much as she wanted details, she came to realize she needed to extract more than just secrets from him. She needed to teach this moment a lesson in trust. As David opened his mouth to speak, Emma pressed forward, driven by an urgency that transcended her fears. What is the truth, David? Whatever it is can't be harder than living with the lie. We need to face this together if we're going to move beyond it. Her persuasion lay not just in her words, but in an unyielding resolve lighting her voice. She wasn't merely fighting for her relationship. She was fighting for her own integrity, her own future. Okay. David's voice wavered. Okay, I'll tell you. But first, you need to sit down. The gravity of his implication weighed heavily on her. She nodded, slowly lowering herself onto the edge of the pew, wondering what was to come. A reckoning, a revelation. Could she truly bear the impact of this truth? More importantly, would it lead to the rebirth of their love? Or would it shatter the dreams she had so carefully built? As the reality of their situation thickened, Emma prepared herself. The air crackled with tension, and time seemed to hold its breath. She had taken the first step. Now she awaited the truth that would define their journey, steering her toward a destination she could only guess at. Emma had wrestled with this moment. Now it was time to see if love could withstand the storm of honesty. The path ahead lay shrouded in uncertainty, but one thing was clear. Whatever happened next would change everything. Emma's mind raced as she perched on the pew, the weight of the moment pressing down on her shoulders. David's gaze flitted between her and the shimmering altar, panic swelling within him. The revelation loomed just beneath the surface, a hidden truth she knew was as fragile as glass. What is it? She urged, feeling the pulse of her heart align with the urgency reflected in his expression. He finally took a deep, trembling breath, his voice low and somber. My family. They aren't who you think they are. At least, not entirely. He paused, a blend of fear and resignation tightening his features. Seeing him so vulnerable sent a thrill through Emma. In his hesitation lay the weight of their future. Just tell me, she insisted, her patience thinning. Whatever it is, I can handle it. After a moment's deafening silence, David spoke, his words tumbling out in a hurried rush. They're involved in business dealings that are questionable. I didn't want to bring you into that mess. It's dangerous. Emma's chest constricted. Dangerous? How? What kind of dealings? The reality of the moment began to settle in, a cold chill wrapping around her. She had spent years fostering an environment of trust in her classroom, discussing consequences and the shades of gray in morality. Now, sitting before the man she was supposed to marry, she was battling her own sense of betrayal. They have connections, he continued, his gaze dropping to the floor. Connections that could put you at risk. I was trying to protect you. By keeping me in the dark? Emma interrupted, her voice sharper than intended. The feeling of betrayal sharpened her resolve as her mind whirred with fresh possibilities. Please, just listen, David pleaded, his eyes filled with desperation. Emma leaned forward, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her heart racing not with fear, but with an intoxicating mix of anger and empowerment. No, David. Listening has gotten me here, standing on the precipice of what could have been the happiest moment of my life, only to be blindsided by deceit. She could feel the fiery resolve growing within her, igniting a need to regain control. You say you were protecting me, but it feels like you were just protecting yourself. The facade you built around our life, our future. David shook his head, visibly distressed. I thought I could change things. I thought if I married you, I could put that all behind me. But you can't do that for me, Emma challenged, the fight surging in her voice. You need to face it head on. If we're going to have any future, you have to break those ties. Not for me, but for yourself. As she spoke, Emma felt an unexpected surge of clarity. She envisioned the life she wanted, one anchored in authenticity. It was a pivotal moment, not just for her relationship with David, but for herself. She had spent so much of her life delivering lessons, but this was a lesson she had to live. I won't become a pawn in your game, she said, voice steady. If there's danger lurking, then we need to confront it together. No more lies, no more pretending. David's face fell. You don't understand. There are people involved. Dangerous people. I don't want to see you get hurt. Then help me help you. The determination in her voice resonated. If we want a future, we'll face whatever this is together. But know this, I will not hide in the shadows because of your fears. This is my life too. As the weight of her words hung in the air, Emma realized she was not just fighting for the truth about David, but for her own agency. This moment crystallized the disparity between their truths. She would step into the light, refusing to allow fear to dictate her destiny. Steeling herself, Emma leaned closer to David. When this is over, either we emerge stronger or we walk away clean. But I will not be shackled to secrets. David's gaze shifted, a mixture of admiration and uncertainty lighting his features. A flicker of comprehension passed between them. This confrontation had not merely exposed hidden truths. It was unearthing something deeper within both of them. What do you suggest we do? He whispered, tentative yet hopeful. Emma's heart raced as thoughts spiraled through her mind. We need to find out what we're really up against. I want to meet your family, face to face. His eyes widened in disbelief as Emma felt the magnitude of her words ripple through the air. Would they delve deeper into the darkness surrounding David's world, or would this journey unveil new understandings about themselves? Emma stood at the edge, ready to leap into the unknown. And as she prepared to step off that precipice, the question loomed large. Could they rewrite their narrative together, or would the truth splinter their fragile bond irrevocably? Emma's heart raced in the stillness of the empty church as she processed her next steps. David's family lurked like shadows on the periphery of her consciousness, a mysterious trap waiting to ensnare them both. The stakes had escalated, and with it, her determination solidified into an unyielding force. She glanced up at David, whose expression toggled between relief and uncertainty. This was a pivotal moment, and Emma could feel the weight of their future resting heavily in her hands. "Meeting your family is only the start," she asserted, her voice steady and resolute. "I need to understand what we're really dealing with. What you've just shared changes everything." David nodded slowly, but there was apprehension in his eyes. "You don't know what they're capable of, Emma. They're not just corporate players. They've crossed lines I wish I could erase." As she listened to him, Emma felt a surge of anger at the layers of deceit she had unwittingly navigated through. It wasn't just about David anymore. It was about her choices, her safety, and how far she would go to reclaim her autonomy. She couldn't allow fear to dictate her path. "What do you mean, crossed lines?" Emma pressed, keen to grasp the full scope of the danger. "You can't just drop hints. I need clarity here." David hesitated, his gaze drifting away as if searching for the right words hidden in the wooden pews. "They've made deals that involve compromising situations. There are people who do whatever it takes to protect their interests." Emma could feel a knot in her stomach tighten. This was not the man she had envisioned sharing a life with, a life built on trust and hope. A realization struck her. Beneath his love lay a darkness she had yet to fully comprehend. Yet here she was, ready to confront it, not just for him, but for herself. "Then we need a plan," she said, her voice taking on a matter-of-fact tone. "If this is a fight, I'm in it with you. But we can't go in blind. I want to know everything." David met her eyes, and for the first time, she noticed a flicker of admiration interlaced with fear. "Okay, but it's not safe to confront them unprepared," he said, voice tense. She took a deep breath, forcing the rising fear down. "Then we prepare. Gather information. We need allies if they decide to come after us." The thought sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. This was not simply about being dragged into a dark narrative. She was crafting her own path, one that required strength and strategy. "Why would anyone believe us?" he asked, skepticism seeping into his tone. "Because we have each other," she replied fiercely, "and because I'm not afraid. You see, this isn't just about you. I'm willing to risk everything to defend what we could have. If we're going to rewrite our story, we must tackle this head-on." David's face shifted as the gravity of her words sank in. Her conviction sparked a flicker of resilience within him. "Okay, we start now. I'll contact the few relatives who might help." The decision solidified something within her. Emma recognized her voice was becoming less of a whisper and more of a bark. This trajectory shifted the very nature of their relationship. This was not about being cast as the damsel in distress. She was the agent of change, and that realization was intoxicating. With adrenaline propelling her forward, she suggested a nearby diner. Open, casual, and neutral ground for their first reconnaissance. The environment shifted once more. As they stepped outside, the sun warmed their skin against the oppressive heaviness that cloaked their conversation inside. Uncertainty still shadowed the road ahead, but Emma felt transformation seeping into her bones with each deliberate step. As they approached the diner, Emma turned to David, her expression carving determination into the air between them. "Let's uncover the truth," she declared, her heart pounding with anticipation and defiance. "Whatever it takes." But as she held his gaze, a chilling thought gripped her. The deeper they delved into David's world, the more secrets it could reveal about herself. Would she emerge empowered? Or would the truth challenge everything she believed about love and loyalty? In that moment, she was on the brink, poised to leap into a confrontation that could change everything they knew. Would they triumph together? Or was the risk of discovery bound to fracture their fragile connection irrevocably? The diner buzzed with the clinking of dishes and the soft murmur of conversations, but for Emma, It was like stepping into a battleground. The familiar scent of coffee couldn't mask the bitter tension hanging between her and David. They settled into a booth, its faux leather scratched and worn. The chaos around them served as a backdrop to her heightened awareness, each breath heavy with consequence. "We'll start with the family dynamics," Emma proposed, her voice lower, focused. "Who do you trust the most? Who poses a real threat?" David fidgeted with the chipped menu, still grappling with rising dread. "My Aunt Alice is fiercely loyal to me. She's always been like a second mother. But my Uncle Richard? He's the one to watch. He's ruthless, and he's had dealings with people who don't play fair." Emma weighed his words, realizing that even inside a seemingly mundane diner, they were treading on treacherous ground. She was not merely acclimating to David's world, she was navigating the jagged edges of his existence where loyalty clashed with self-preservation. "All right," she decided, the conviction resonating within her. "If we manage to meet Alice, we'll see if she can provide insight into Richard's influence, but I want to ensure we're careful. We can't risk putting her in danger." He nodded, visibly tensing at the mention of Richard's name. This meeting wasn't just about gathering intel. It was a step deeper into a world filled with uncertainty and danger. Emma felt the poised weight of her decision to delve in, a thrilling yet terrifying sensation. After placing their orders, David seemed lost in thought, likely battling the fear that threatened to overwhelm him. She reached across the table, grasped his hand, and squeezed gently. The gesture felt like a lifeline they both needed amidst the rising tide of chaos. "Whatever happens, I'm with you," she stated firmly, "but you have to promise to be truthful. I can't fight shadows." His eyes tightened in response. "It's not just about being truthful, Emma. There are things I can't afford to tell you. At least not yet. I can't drag you deeper into this." Emma pulled back slightly, frustration simmering beneath the surface. "David, I need to know what I'm up against. You cannot protect me by keeping me in the dark. It will only put us both in greater danger." He exhaled heavily, deliberating. "There are people who would kill to keep secrets buried. Being innocent might not shield us if we're perceived as threats." Her heart quickened at his words, the stakes suddenly becoming starkly real. "Then let's make sure we're strategically positioned. If Richard has a penchant for eliminating threats, then we need to turn the game on its head." She could sense David processing the shift in their conversation. He was accustomed to playing defense, but she was urging him onto the offense. The thought thrilled her, a crack of empowerment breaking through the veil of uncertainty that had lingered over their past discussions. Their meals arrived, a distraction amidst the rising tension. But even as they ate, discussion turned into planning. Each bite served as fuel for their emerging strategy, a dual commitment to unraveling the truth. Emma workshopped ideas, suggesting they gather concrete evidence, emails, phone calls, anything tangible that could further stir the pot against Richard and his machinations. "Tonight we can sift through some of my parents' old files," David offered, a glimmer of determination igniting. "They might have kept records that could help us understand what Richard has been doing, what he's capable of." Emma smiled, the adrenaline rushing through her veins. This was no longer just a mission. They were becoming a team, and her resolve was unshakable. But glimpses of doubt danced in the corners of her mind, a reminder that with every layer they peeled back, they risked unearthing secrets that could unravel their fragile bond. As they finished their meals, a lingering question formed in her thoughts, the provocative spark of curiosity igniting once more. What exactly lay hidden in those files? What revelations awaited them, and how drastically might they shift their understanding of David's family and their future? Shaking off the lingering query, she took David's hand again. "We start tonight, together." But as they exited the diner, a chilling sensation washed over her. This was just the beginning of a journey fraught with unexpected dangers. The deeper they plunged into this shadowy underworld, the more tightly the threads of their fate wound together. Would they emerge victorious, or would the hidden truths reshape everything they thought they knew. The uncertainty loomed large as they stepped into the fading twilight, the shadows stretching ominously around them. The air outside the diner was thick with anticipation. Each step Emma took towards David's house laced with an undercurrent of tension. Evening shadows cloaked the dimly lit street, but it wasn't the darkness that unnerved her. It was the unseen weight of their mission, resting heavy on her shoulders. As they walked in silence, she couldn't help but scrutinize the implications of the night ahead. She felt a sense of urgency. The action they were about to undertake felt nothing short of dangerous. "After we sift through the files, I should probably call Alice," David murmured, breaking the silence but not her spiraling thoughts. "I want to get her insight without alarming her. But if Richard finds out..." Emma sensed the tension in his voice and squeezed his hand again, trying to impart some of her courage. "We'll be careful. Let's focus on what we can control, tracking down the information we need." They reached his house and slipped inside, careful to keep the door quiet as they entered. Emma's heart was racing, not just from the adrenaline of the impending confrontation, but because she was discovering how adept she was at strategizing under pressure. This was not merely about helping David. She was proving to herself that she could navigate chaotic waters and emerge with clarity. As they made their way to David's old small office space, Emma's mind raced with possible avenues of approach. Richard's impact wasn't merely familial, it was professional, and it had left little doubt of his manipulative tendencies. Emphasizing their dual objective, she began flipping through the stacks of old documents piled haphazardly on the desks. With each page she examined, a new layer of distrust unfurled. "Look at this." She pointed towards a series of invoices. "These aren't purely personal records. This is a web, David. There are connections here that can unravel Richard." She watched as realization swept over his face, those familiar features tightening with concentration. The dawning understanding brought with it a new fire. "If we can link these to his other dealings, then we can prove he has both motive and opportunity," Emma interjected, her voice brimming with resolve. "And that makes him all the more dangerous." Each new discovery allowed Emma to further hone her instincts. There was a stimulating clarity in her strategic thinking as she began to visualize the bigger picture. The knowledge that they might just hold the key to taking Richard down sent jolts of excitement through her. But lurking beneath that thrill was an unsettling concern. What if they didn't uncover what they hoped? What if they didn't have enough evidence to counteract Richard's influence? As they dug deeper, their focus sharpened. They found old communication records, alarming notes about meetings that seemed innocuous on the surface, but hinted at far darker dealings, shell companies, suspicious transfers, and connections to those outside the family. Just as Emma was beginning to feel overwhelmed by the volume of information, she stumbled across a file marked with red letters, glistening ominously in the low light. "What's this?" David asked, moving closer, his breath catching as he recognized the sigil stamped on the front. "Evidence," Emma concluded, heart hammering in her chest. Evidence that could ignite this entire powder keg. As they flipped through the pages, anxiety morphed into determination. Emma felt more empowered with each layer they broke through. She not only saw herself as a participant, but as a leader. They were playing for keeps now, and she sensed that their tight-knit partnership had the potential to morph into something larger, something transformative. But then, a sharp sound echoed from the main room, the unmistakable creak of the front door. Emma's pulse quickened. "Did you lock the door?" she whispered urgently. David's eyes widened, instincts kicking in as adrenaline flooded his system. "No. I was focused on the files." A sense of foreboding filled the room, crushing against her chest like a vice. The tranquility they felt moments ago was replaced by raw tension. This was real. They were trespassing in a realm that demanded their utmost caution. The night, once a vessel for discovery, had turned morbidly uncertain. Would they find security or merely end up deeper in darkness? Emma sighed as whispers of doubt seeped into her consciousness. Was she truly prepared to face the reality of Richard's revenge? As they exchanged anxious glances, Emma felt the chilling weight of the unfolding imbalance. Theirs was now a world where one misstep could end everything. And with that, they braced for whatever emerged, the question of who might come through that door gnawing at her gut. In that breathless moment, she'd understood a critical lesson. She was in a game where every move mattered, and the greatest threats often came from those they least expected. How would they navigate the chaos that was about to erupt? The creak of the door reverberated through the room, amplifying the tension that wrapped around Emma and David like a suffocating shroud. Every muscle in Emma's body tensed, her instincts flaring as she tightened her grip on the file, a physical reflection of her mental state. "Stay quiet," she mouthed, her voice reduced to a whisper that barely escaped her lips. The files in her grasp felt like both armor and a liability. If they were discovered now, everything could collapse. David nodded, his eyes darting toward the dim light spilling from the hallway. The air felt charged, thick with a mixture of fear and adrenaline. Emma's mind raced. Could they hide? Should they confront whoever had entered? The very prospect of failing gripped her stomach, sending sharp pangs of anxiety through her. Time seemed to distort as they held their breath, waiting, willing the intruder to turn back and leave. But then she heard footsteps, slow and deliberate. What if it was Richard? Would he know they were there? "Listen," she whispered urgently to David. "We need to move. If it's him, we..." Suddenly, the shadow of a figure loomed in the doorway. Emma's heart raced. Adrenaline surged through her veins as the figure stepped forward, revealing not Richard, but Alice, David's sister, her expression a mix of confusion and alarm. "What are you two doing here?" Alice's voice pierced the tension, her brows furrowing as she took in their frenetic energy and the papers scattered across the table. "We're looking for evidence against Richard," David said, his tone firm but laced with urgency. "He's been hiding something big, and we're trying to uncover it before it's too late." Alice's eyes widened, shifting between the files and the two of them. "Are you serious? He's dangerous, you know that." "I understand that," Emma pushed back, feeling the protective instinct claw at her chest. "But he's also been manipulating everything around us. If we don't stand up to him now, who knows what will happen?" Alice crossed her arms, skepticism palpable. "And you think you can just waltz in here and take him down? It's not that simple." "I've been learning," Emma interrupted, frustration bubbling. "Tonight has already shown me that I'm capable of more than I thought. We're deep in this game now, and I won't back down. We have leads, a trail that can finally expose him." The words hung in the air as the gravity of their situation settled over the three of them. Alice's expression shifted, the skepticism giving way to dawning realization. What leads? Emma took a breath, steadying her resolve. She pulled the red-marked file closer, shedding light on the scattered papers. "We found evidence linking Richard to corruption, shell companies, backdoor deals. It's all right here. If we can piece it together, we can take him down in one move." Alice moved closer, studying the documents as Emma pointed out the connections. Emma felt the walls of impatience and fear closing in, yet with Alice's focus shifted toward the evidence, new hope flickered in the air. Could they truly unravel Richard's web? As they delved into the file together, the tension in the room began to morph. They were no longer just accomplices in a dangerous spiral, but allies against a common enemy. Each detail they discussed morphed into strategies and plans, a newfound clarity illuminating the way forward. "I'll help," Alice declared suddenly, conviction strengthening her voice. "But we must be cautious. Richard has been one step ahead for too long." The trio locked eyes, an unspoken alliance forming in their midst. Emma felt a wave of empowerment wash over her. Not only had she faced her fears, but she had galvanized others into collective action. Determined, they meticulously brainstormed outreach methods and traps to ensnare Richard. For the first time since stepping into this nightmare, Emma felt capable and ready to fight back. This was more than a revelation. It was the birth of a strategy and her own personal empowerment, but deep down, a fresh wave of unease ebbed within her, echoing her earlier thoughts. What if their plan set off a counterattack that spiraled beyond their control? Just as the revelations surged within, a sharp knock on the door interrupted their strategizing, jolting Emma out of her reverie. The solid thud reverberated through the room, tension spiking again. It was a signal, a reminder that time was slipping away, and Richard's influence was looming closer than ever. "Stay put," David whispered, brow furrowed as he approached the door cautiously. Emma held her breath, uncertainty gripping her once more. Could they truly navigate the chaos now unfolding? As David reached for the door handle, Emma braced herself for the tension that awaited on the other side. Would it be salvation, or the harbinger of their ultimate confrontation? David's hand hovered over the door handle as he exchanged a quick glance with Emma. The urgency was palpable, a rhythmic thrum that matched the rapid beat of her heart. She felt the weight of everything they had discussed, not just the plans to take down Richard, but the burgeoning confidence she had found in herself. When David turned the knob, the creak of the door echoed through the silence, and Emma instinctively took a step back, anxiety churning in her stomach. The door swung open to reveal Evan, a middle manager from their office with an unreadable expression. "What are you doing here?" he asked, obviously shocked to find Emma and David together in such a tense atmosphere. "We're working late," David replied, his voice steady but taut. Evan narrowed his eyes. "Do you need something? I can help." Emma sensed the unease radiating from David. Perhaps this wasn't the time for half-truths. "We're uncovering some irregularities in our department," she said, deliberately keeping her tone calm. "We have some leads on potential misconduct, and we're—" "Misconduct?" Evan cut in, his face pale. "What kind of misconduct?" Emma exchanged a quick glance with David. This was their chance to gauge Evan's loyalty and perhaps find another ally, or at least someone who could be pressured into compliance. "The kind that could incriminate several people in upper management," Emma said, her voice firm. "Richard is involved, along with some others. If you don't want to be implicated, perhaps you should assist us in collecting evidence that could lead to his downfall." Evan's eyes darted between the two of them, an internal battle evident on his face. "You don't know what you're getting into," he finally muttered, his expression shifting from shock to trepidation. "Richard is not someone to trifle with. He has connections." Emma felt the familiar mix of fear and determination rise up within her. "Believe me, I know. That's why we're here. If we do nothing, he'll only continue to manipulate everyone, including you." For a moment, he looked tempted, yet uncertainty etched into his brow. "What if he finds out?" "Then we tread carefully," David said, stepping closer. "But we need your help. You have access to information we don't. Together we could expose him." Evan hesitated, typecasting them as reckless saviors, and Emma could almost see his thoughts unraveling, his desire to protect himself battling against an evident discomfort at Richard's iron grip on their company. "What's in it for me?" Evan finally asked, skepticism shrouding his voice. Emma felt a wave of frustration but quickly masked it. This was a negotiation, and she had to uphold her resolve, not just for herself, but for David and Alice as well. "What if you no longer need to fear him? What if you could salvage your career and integrity once Richard is out of the picture?" Evan's shoulders slumped slightly, still unconvinced, but seeming to waver. "You think you can really pull this off?" "There's no other option," Emma insisted. "We do this together, or we let him keep winning." A moment hung heavy with suspense. Evan looked at each of them, weighing the risks and potential benefits. Just as it felt like he might agree, the atmosphere shifted, and Emma's phone buzzed in her pocket. The sudden noise sliced through the tension, and she quickly pulled it out, her pulse racing. A message from an unknown number read, "I know what you're trying to do. You're in way over your head." Emma's heart dropped. Richard had eyes and ears everywhere. "Evan, I need you to understand," she shot back, urgency anchoring her voice. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's bigger than that, and we're not alone." As awe mixed with fear in Evan's eyes, the stakes had escalated. The possibility of betrayal loomed larger than ever. Were they truly ready to take Richard down, or had they just plunged deeper into his trap? "Are you in or out?" David's voice pierced the tension, demanding a decision, their collective fate hanging in the balance. As Evan grappled with the gravity of Emma's words, the door creaked again. But this time it was a fresh wave of tension, a sign that decisions had to be made, and fast. Would they solidify their alliance in this precarious moment, or would hesitation lead them to ruin? The answer lay just beyond the door, and Emma's stomach churned with possibilities and threats in equal measure. In that instant, she realized they were standing at the precipice of irreversible change. What would she sacrifice for the truth? And as they braced themselves to face whatever came next, Emma felt something deep within her shift once more. A determination to confront not just Richard, but the lurking shadows within her own self. Evan's hesitation lingered, thickening the air as the weight of imminent decisions pressed down on the three of them. Emma's heart raced, its rhythm echoing louder than Evan's wavering words. In this moment, she wasn't just confronted with the choice of an ally. She was faced with a reflection of her own doubts, a mirror that revealed her growing conviction, battling against the haunting fears that had previously held her captive. "Evan, this isn't just about you or me," Emma asserted, her voice steadying as a sense of urgency sharpened her focus. "It's about reclaiming the strength that's been stifled by fear. We have a chance to do something meaningful. Don't you want that?" His eyebrows furrowed deeper, conflict unmistakable on his face. She could see his internal struggle, the fear of retribution clashing against a flickering flame of rebellion. Emma knew enough about corporate entanglements to recognize a life lived in quiet desperation. She had felt that weight herself, always submitting to authority, always keeping her head down. But now, the thought of continued subservience ignited a fire within her. Emma took a step forward, her voice dropping to a near whisper as she shared her realization. "I've spent too long letting Richard's shadow stretch over my life. No more. I refuse to be complicit in this culture of silence." The determination in her tone hung in the air. Whether he responded to her assertions or to the emotional undertone of her resolve, Evan's expression softened. The conflict on his face evolved into something more akin to understanding. They were all entangled in Richard's treachery, yet it felt as though Emma had found her footing in a storm. I've seen what this place does to people," Evan finally admitted, his resolve seeming to shift. "But if we do this, it's not just about bringing him down. It's risking everything, my career, my family." A hint of desperation colored his voice, but Emma realized this was not just a plea for help. It was a path toward enlightenment for him as well. He stood at a crossroads, as she did, and maybe, just maybe, he could find the courage she had uncovered within herself. "That's why we must act," she urged. "We create our own safety nets. We have to stand together against the risk, or risk drowning in fear forever. If you help us, we can protect each other." Evan took a deep breath, his shoulders visibly relaxing. The tension that had engulfed him moments ago seemed to dissipate in the face of solidarity. "What do you need me to do?" Emma's heart fluttered, a sense of triumph pooling within her. "There's a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning among the upper management. We need information on the content of that meeting. It could be critical to our case against Richard." As Evan considered her words, her phone buzzed again, the persistent intruder pulling her attention and jarring her newfound hope. This time it read, Time is running out. You don't understand who you're up against. Her gut twisted. Was this Richard or someone in his circle pulling strings? Evan, we have to move quickly. We can use this pressure to leverage next steps. He nodded, and the resolve in his eyes hardened. All right, I'll gather intel tonight, but we must be careful. Emma could see the shift in him. His fears still present, but overshadowed by a burgeoning sense of purpose. She felt it too, a strengthening resolve coursing through her veins. This was the moment she had been waiting for. Not just standing at the precipice of another corporate showdown, but forging a path for herself and others alongside her. As they shared their plans, an almost palpable energy enveloped them, knitting together their resolve in the face of uncertainty. They would not back down, not alone, and not together. The pieces of the puzzle began to align, and Emma felt the flicker of hope ignite within her. Yet, as each plan unfolded, the ominous undertone of Richard's looming threat remained. At the edge of her triumph lay the stark reality. Was she truly prepared for the confrontation ahead? Could she navigate the shifting tides of loyalty and deceit without losing everything she had gained in this battle for truth? With these questions rattling in her mind, Emma stole a glance at Evan and David, understanding that whatever came next would challenge every facet of her resolve. Together they might step into the storm, but how many would weather it intact? As the night deepened, Emma felt the weight of her journey settle on her shoulders, and she knew one thing. The moment of reckoning was approaching fast. Would courage define her? Or would she be swallowed by the shadows they sought to expose? The time was coming for her to confront the very essence of her conflict head-on. The next morning, the weight of anticipation loomed heavy in the air. Emma, David, and Evan sat huddled around a small kitchen table strewn with documents and scattered notes. As the first rays of sunlight filtered through the curtains, illuminating the potential ahead, Emma felt a sense of calm resolve wash over her. Today was the day they would confront Richard, leverage their newfound alliance, and demand accountability for the chaos he had inflicted. Hours passed slowly as they reviewed the intel Evan had gathered overnight. The meeting amongst upper management was not only their chance to unveil Richard's corrupt dealings, but also a pivotal moment for Emma to claim her space as someone who would no longer operate in the shadows. She meticulously outlined their strategy, her educator instincts kicking in, drawing parallels to lessons she had once delivered to her students about the importance of standing firm against wrongdoing. Evan, you'll need to ensure that you subtly pivot the conversation towards Richard's dealings, she instructed, feeling her confidence swell with each word. If we can introduce a sense of doubt around him without directly naming accusations, it could set the stage for our claims without arousing alarm. Evan nodded, looking more assured. I can do that. Once the seed of distrust takes root, it may force them to reevaluate his position. David stood beside her, his admiration evident as he watched Emma harness her leadership skills. You're incredibly strong for spearheading this, Emma. I couldn't have asked for a better partner in this fight. Emma felt a rush of pride. The journey she had embarked on transformed her from a passive participant into an assertive agent of change. No longer would she shy away from confrontation. She was seizing control of her destiny and rewriting her narrative. As they prepared to leave for the office, Emma glanced at the mirror, making sure her composure reflected the strength she felt inside. Today was not just about outing Richard. It was about validating her own journey and reclaiming the power he had wielded. Arriving at the corporate office, the air buzzed with an unfamiliar tension. The trio maneuvered through the corridors, aware that their actions today could disrupt the status quo. Emma felt an electrifying mix of anticipation and determination surging within her. This was her moment to prove not just to others, but to herself, that she had mastered the art of advocating for truth. Entering the conference room, Emma took a deep breath, her heart pounding in sync with her steps. She exchanged furtive glances with David and Evan, grounding herself in the partnership they had forged through adversity. As they took their seats, the atmosphere thickened. The upper management team entered, led by none other than Richard himself, a man now cloaked in deception and bravado. The meeting commenced uneasily, the agenda overshadowed by the palpable tension that hung in the air like a storm cloud. Richard projected an image of confidence and control, but Emma could sense the cracks beneath his facade. As discussions flowed, she prepared to weave her arguments into the conversation. Before we proceed, I believe we must address some recent discrepancies that have caught our attention. Emma interjected firmly, her voice clear and unwavering. The room fell silent, all eyes narrowing on her. She could see the subtle shift in Richard's demeanor as he instinctively began calculating his response. Discrepancies? He questioned with a hint of derision, but there was something in his tone that hinted at anxiety. What sort of discrepancies? With each passing second, Emma's confidence solidified. The room leaned in as she outlined the evidence Evan had provided. The hidden invoices, the shadow connections, the unethical dealings that marred the integrity of the company. Her words were no longer mere whispers. They were declarations woven from years of experience and conviction. This is not just about numbers anymore, Richard. These actions frame the culture of this organization, she continued, meeting his gaze with unwavering strength. It's time to put integrity back at the forefront of our company, and that begins with you. As murmurs of disbelief cascaded around the table, Emma observed Richard's facade beginning to crack. She could feel exhilaration coursing through her veins. She was not just speaking truth to power. She was embodying it. A board member interjected cautiously. And you've concluded this based on information from the accounts? Are we now investigating our own employees' honesty? There was hesitance among the group, but Emma stood firm. Yes, and it is crucial we take these allegations seriously, she replied. The realization dawned upon her that she was now the one driving the narrative, shaping the outcome of not only her career, but the ethical framework of the company. The meeting progressed, and the resulting tension grasped Richard firmly. His attempts to dismiss Emma's claims met stiff resistance, as other board members began voicing their concerns, echoing her sentiments. The grip he held began to dissolve, as doubt permeated the once unwavering loyalty of his peers. At the culmination of the meeting, Richard, realizing the tide had turned, made a last attempt for control. This is preposterous. You think you can sway opinion based on baseless rumors? Emma leaned forward, resolve coursing through her. No, Richard. This is accountability. It is time for all of us to live by the values we espouse. Each word resonated with newfound authority as she claimed her place at the table. The fallout from the meeting left Richard scrambling, as board members began to share concerns and investigate the claims further. Emma felt a wave of satisfaction. She had dismantled the toxic grip he held over them all, and inspired others to join her cause. As they departed the conference room, David and Evan joined her, camaraderie solidifying their bond. Beyond a mere confrontation, they had reshaped the very structure of the company and perhaps ignited a movement towards transparency. Walking out of the office, Emma felt light as air, the tight knot of doubt unwinding within her. She had achieved something monumental, not just in exposing Richard, but in transforming her own identity. She now recognized her power, a strength emboldened by facts coupled with her unyielding desire for justice. Reflection cascaded through her as they exited the building. She savored every moment of triumph. From the classroom lessons she had imparted to students, the validation of personal integrity, and the drive to reclaim her narrative, Emma had emerged victorious. Together they stood united, 3 allies ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Emma understood now that this journey was only the beginning. She was not merely an educator or a passive participant in her life story. She was a force of change, fully capable of reclaiming her experiences and paving the way for her future. Standing in the glow of the morning sun, Emma faced the horizon with confidence and resolve. In the aftermath of transparency and courage lay new opportunities, and she was prepared to embrace each one. This was her moment, a launching pad from which she could soar, and she felt an exhilarating wealth of possibility envelop her, a feeling she would never relinquish again. She was ready for whatever came next. Now is the time you become part of this transformative journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire you to overcome your own challenges. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support the creation of more powerful narratives that can change lives. Comment what you felt about Emma's journey. Share your reactions and theories about her future. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and ignite the spark of courage within them as well. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.